Okay, this is a video talking about a wife who put drain cleaner her husband's coffee. This is what happens to his stomach. This guy starts off saying this is strictly about what the effects of drain cleaner. Yet he inserts, when you listen to this, he'll insert his own bias into it. So I'm going to call him out on it.
Nothing to do with anything you may have seen or heard of in the news. The purpose of this video is to teach what can happen in a poisoning like this. A wife poured drain cleaner in her husband's coffee. This is how his organs shut down. PB is a 41-year-old man presenting to the emergency room with hematemesis, the vomiting of blood. He tells the admitting nurse that yesterday, when he was taking a dump, he looked into the bowl before flushing, and instead of a regular stool, he saw thick, dark goo that looked like asphalt in the toilet. All of this suggesting that over the last couple of days, there had been significant hemorrhaging taking place in his stomach. PB had a strained relationship with his wife, Katie. They had been trying for so long to have kids, but things just weren't happening. This was just one part of their relationship problems.
Oh, so he's talking about relationship problems. I thought this was about the effects of drain cleaner on a guy's stomach. This is where you guys are going to see his bias.
PB and his wife had met earlier in their lives. He was highly educated, and his young married couple, everything was good until one day, PB was suddenly laid off from his job.
Notice that everything was good until he couldn't fulfill his provider role, till he lost his job. He was laid off too. He wasn't fired. So he didn't do anything wrong. So what's going to lead up to this poisoning is something that was out of this man's power. And that's what this woman selected this man for typical gender roles. All women do it, not just some, not a certain kind. All women do it. That's why men are stuck in their gender roles. That's what women select for.
Stunned and in disbelief, he tried as hard as he could to find more work in his field, but no one would give him a chance. He tried using his credentials to get companies to bite on his idea of blockchain to optimize logistics, agriculture, and medicine through a company he incorporated himself, but no one would give him the time of day.
Hey, and this is something else you guys know about the workforce when it comes to us guys. I've known women quit a job today and pick one up the next day. Pick one up tomorrow. Men can't do that. This guy is highly credentialed and had a job for a long time, no doubt. When men get fired, and I'm telling you from personal experience, it might be a year or two before we find employment. People want to employ women. They don't want to employ men if they can get away with it. Men have to fight for employment.
When that failed, he tried doing a woodworking business. He tried making videos and podcasts, but everything he did ended with him needing a loan that he couldn't pay back, and Katie would have to bail him out.
So there's a couple things here. One, notice this guy was doing everything in his power to get work. So it wasn't even a case where this man sat down in front of the couch and ate Doritos and watched TV, which is what they usually depict. You know how women say they love ambition in a man? They don't love ambition. They love what ambition can bring. So a man who's ambitious and who's ambitious fails him, he's not considered ambitious. He's just considered a failure. So no, that's the case.
Babe, I just need like $5,000 to pay off the tools. And I'll work double time and make more of these to pay you back and then some. I'm just in a tough spot right now.
Eventually, he figured out that so long as he made it look like he was doing something, he could live free with no repercussions because his wife would always be there to bail him out.
So basically, he's living the life of a typical housewife. Guys, how many housewives do you know whose husbands fund their projects continuously? Only they're not trying to get labor. They're bored and they want something to do. So the husband is not only paying for a lifestyle, but Her lifestyle is her using up his money for her entertainment. This guy might even have a wife who's like that. I don't know. But guys accept that. So now that the shoe's on the other foot, this guy has a problem with it. See, he's very biased against this. He has a problem. He's trying to paint this woman who's a murderess as a victim of a man who's being a bum. And when I say being a bum, he isn't a little servant boy. He doesn't fulfill his gender roles, his provider role.
Because his wife would always be there to bail him out.
By the way, I was going to ask you for $5,000 so I could try to buy you a better personality.
After all this time, they kept trying to have a child with no luck, and their marriage kept getting strained. If he fails at everything in life, no wonder he fails at making a kid too, she thought.
Is that what she thought? How could he fail at everything in his life? You just said this guy was 41, right? And he only recently, according to this video, got laid off. So she got together with him when he was at a peak. So this guy had all kinds of success in his life. He's just failing now. And his failure is simply failing at getting employment. But other than that, so how could it be a failure or not? Because a lot of women think this. They don't remember anything of the past except for what's going on now. Because men aren't chosen because the women love us. We're chosen to be the provider. If we fail, we're bums. And nothing we did good in the past matters. Because we were never there. We were never a human being to the woman in the first place.
As the years passed, Katie became more and more successful in her career. One day, while she was on a call for work, PB was recording a podcast in the back.
Frankie Cambo's super sweet podcast.
I am so sorry about the noise, everyone. My husband is busy being a world-famous podcaster. You guys see? 0. Just like all of his life successes.
Mad at the passive-aggressive dig, PB composited a picture of Katie. In his mind, no kids yet was her fault. He didn't have proof of it, but he believed that she was sabotaging it, taking pills behind his back to prevent it from happening.
He might actually be true. Right. I don't know. I can't say that he is. It may not be false. But this one surprised me because the whole point of women having children is to have leverage over the man. And there's no point in having a child if the man has nothing to have leverage over. So this woman's making the money. So why would she want to have a child now? Because having a child means usually you give up your own job and look after the child while the husband works. He doesn't have a job. Right. Also, guys have the perfect right to sweat when women start doing better than them. Because in our heart of hearts, we know in our instincts that we're chosen for the provider role. And if we don't fulfill it, the woman leaves.
In an effort to preserve and progress in her career, God knows what she's doing on those business trips, he thought as he left a picture on the table for her to see. Upset at this horrible depiction, Katie made...
It's a horrible depiction. I wouldn't describe it as horrible. It's not. It's unflattering. But he showed a depiction of her, at least according to this video, personally. It's just between him and her. When she called him a 0, she called him a 0 to complete strangers, to other people. So this guy, this doctor here, I assume he's a doctor, he's depicting this woman, who obviously is much more vicious, as the victim in this case. He's trying to excuse the fact that she's going to murder this guy because he's no longer useful to her.
Made up her mind. Her entire married life had been carrying the failures of this one person who appeared...
What are you talking about? She married him when the guy was up and they were doing fine. So it wasn't the entire marriage.
completely unthankful for the fact that she allows him to live the life that he does. In nature, a creature that lives off another and enjoys itself at the expense of the other is a parasite, and a pest as such must be removed to keep one healthy, as she prepared herself for what she was about.
Okay, so he's describing this guy who simply lost his job as a parasite, and you've got to remove the parasite. So this doctor back here has just admitted that he sees this man as a parasite and he deserves to die. That's the only conclusion I can draw from what he's just shown here. So this is not just a video about the effects of drain cleaners on someone's stomach. This is propaganda against men who fail their gender roles.
To do. PB had had stomach problems all throughout his life. He had a diagnosis of ulcers, worse ulcers. One morning, Katie was making breakfast for PB before he went off to work. He liked to drink black.
Is that his photograph on that mug? This is basically an endorsement for what this woman is doing to him, poisoning her husband.
Coffee, no cream or sweeteners. This may have made his ulcers worse, but it just seemed to be random at times. Under the sink was a bottle of drain cleaner, and as PB's coffee was ready, she poured some in and served it to him.
Okay, we don't need to show anything more of this. His long video. This shows everything I want to show, which is this poor guy married a woman, very typical relationship. He failed at the gender role, provider role, through no fault of his own. And this woman, who doesn't want to go through the messiness and money of a divorce, because that's what would happen, decides to poison him and kill him that way. And then he's out of the way. And this doctor here, it basically is trying to paint her as a victim and that the guy deserved it. And this doctor, or this guy here, if he fails if something happens to his ability to earn, he will not believe he deserves to die. He will believe he doesn't deserve to be left behind. And he will believe that he still deserves respect as a human being. And yet, that's what he wished for this guy. Obviously, once he showed that parasite in here, that one with the, that admitted what he thought about this guy. So this shows you just how bad men are. Like, we are our own problem. This is why modern men are having the problems that we do. We live in easy, good times, and our instincts to turn on one another for no other reason than hostility is actually destroying us. And these are the subhuman animalistic instincts we've got to kill if we want to evolve beyond what we are now. Now, this guy, I'll end by simply saying, I've lost total respect for this guy. I have zero respect for this person. He showed me that he is just an animal. He doesn't like other men, and he's trying to paint this woman who's a vile murderess as someone who, let's say, we're supposed to have sympathy for, because she was taken advantage by a man who behaves like a housewife. Okay, goodbye, everyone.